Action. Welcome back to the Legends or EU Wayback Machine. I have all my bases covered, as always. I even put both in the title for this one, just to also upset Brennan, because he's not here. But I have all my bases covered. So
good man.
Fortunately or unfortunately, it's just the three of us today. But I think we're all sufficient to get through this together. So,
sufficient, and this might actually be a shorter episode. We may not go 3 hours, 4 hours on this.
On 4 issues of comic books. Yeah.
Yep.
Also, before I say anything, how late is it for you, Yenis? Your cousin Yenis says, I guess this is how I spend tonight. So, wow, Dexter's been hitting the gym. Yeah, that's funny. But yep, we have issues 20 to 23 today. We're finishing off the arc. I mean, we were on the wheel, and then we had a whole bunch of things happen between then. So.
Yes, we had an interlude on Tatooine, but I think we're back to the main cast, the Luke, Leia, Han story. No more throwbacks, no more blast from the past. Just we got full speed ahead going forward now.
Yes, Luke is in a coma. They decided to go to the wheel to get him medical assistance, and on the way there, they ran across this ship carrying profits from the wheel that was attacked by the Empire and made to look like it was the rebels.
A false flag attack, as they say.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Han got put into some fighting arena thing by the end of the last thing we saw. We left off with Han in danger.
Han had gambling debts, and he didn't do too well at the Savak table or the Jarek table. So now they put him in basically a boxing match or a shooting match out in open space again. Very similar to when he fought Crimson Jack.
Well, they made him lose.
Yeah, they give him a bad blaster, as we find out. Doesn't fire.
Well, no, I mean, before this, they made him lose at
the tables, right? Yeah.
Yes. So that he would have to take part in this or otherwise be unable to buy back the droids or pay the fees for the Falcon.
Mm-hmm. Makes you think twice about... Yeah, I was going to say it makes you think twice about going to gamble at the wheel, because if they can very easily just target you to lose, who's to say they can't just do that to everybody, or that all the tables might be rigged? So probably not the best ways to... Yeah, exactly.
With little dolls, like, you're not supposed to win ever. It's a lie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I wouldn't exactly spend your vacation at the wheel if you're a citizen of the galaxy.
I feel like a lot of people show up and get shot up there. Like, it's not a fun place usually. Like, it's fun, but then like you sit there too long and a whole shootout happens, So it's like, I don't think they got great security. Personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they kept the Empire out just because they kind of wanted to do their own thing, but then the Empire seems like they're very involved, at least at these few issues, to where they caused more of the trouble than they probably should have been. Like, if they had not been involved in this at all, it would have probably been better off for the Empire. I think they just look foolish because they mess up at every turn here.
Ostensibly, the Empire recognizes that. Ostensibly, the Empire recognizes that it's in their best interest to let the wheel run itself, rather than upset everyone by interfering. But Commander Strom is now attempting to seize control in a way that on the assumption that if it looked like the wheel was under threat by the rebels, that everyone would be on board with the Empire coming in and taking over.
Mm-hmm. They do manage to upset a lot of people, though.
Yes,
I think Commander Strom just is an incompetent dude. He's not the best
Yes.
person to be in charge of that part of the sector. But we'll see it firsthand when we go through the comics. So let's start on the first
Captain
page.
Solo is doomed. I had to do my usual voice.
So is that a
But it was-
Dexter Jester character, the same one from episode 2, the cafe?
his face doesn't look like the same sort of species, so I think he's just another species with 4 arms because he's got like these like little wing-looking things coming out of his head. But
Yes.
and he's got tusks, which are definitely not a Dexter thing,
Mm-hmm.
nor a
He's got
Pom
a-
Krell thing, as he mentioned from TCW. But
Yeah, looks a little bit like a fish, like an aquatic face there. He's got fins on his ears.
we also got these like gremlin-looking guys that are watching. It's been interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Don't think we ever see them again.
it's a fighting match, so everybody's gambling on who's going to win the fight. It's like a boxing match, but with knives, and later they have guns, blasters.
Yenna says, "I think it's the large alien which appears in the KOTOR comics. Maybe. I'm not. I'm. What are you? Which one are you referring to? There's a few." She says in issues 41 to 42, if he's not mistaken. I'll
to
take
look
your
that
word
up.
for it for now. Yeah, I have to go back
Yeah.
and look at it. So
When we get to that, we'll be able to confirm. So we
The
start
wheel
off
be
here.
like- So I just Onyx said the wheel be like, I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
It is a good trick. So it looks like we have a Z95 headhunter here. First appearance ever, possibly.
X-Wing, actually.
Oh, X-Wing. Okay.
Is it
Yeah,
X-Wing?
okay. So it's I see it now. It's just kind of you can't see the extra wing there because it's right in front of you.
Mm.
Yeah, it's
It's an odd angle.
It's
It is
also
an odd
weirdly asymmetrical. It looks like it's got 2 engines on one side on the top, and
It's
Yeah,
highly modified.
highly modified. Yeah. Best answer we got.
maybe it's a Z95 modified by the Empire to look like an X-Wing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Could be.
Very, very possibly. But the Empire is setting up this false flag operation, and they're doing it in front of everybody on the wheel. Like they're all watching this occur outside. It's on the view screen.
Over there.
Right. Yeah. So the wheel's there. And then on the next page, we see everybody watching it on the view screens. So it makes it look like a Rebel Alliance terrorist attack, pretty much. And then we see the Imperials, which normally aren't supposed to be there. They're supposed to have a hands-off presence on the wheel, but it looks like we have TIE Advanced come in, just destroy this X-Wing, and it's all set up. It's completely staged, just for propaganda purposes.
Do love our propaganda.
Yeah,
that is actually quite interesting to have that
is
happen.
strange. Why did Infantino use that? See, this one here looks very strange. Doesn't even look like a tie, but I've said it before. Inconsistency. Sometimes his stuff looks all right, and other times it just looks wrong.
Mm-hmm. I guess
Also,
maybe a little change of pace that they just decided to use a TIE Advanced instead of a TIE Fighter there, just so you get a better shot of it. Because I think most other comics that we've covered so far, we just saw TIE Fighters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, Onyx says the wheel's so fascinating. One of the earliest creations of the EU, and it managed to keep showing up decently often. I wish it had been in the episode 1 era EU though.
So Leia is currently the guest of
That gray shade guy
Simon
looks like
Greyshade.
that I called him Count Dracula before, I think, because of his fit.
ex-imperial senator, and we're not told in this series which planet he was the senator of.
Wait, what? Sorry, Onyx says Simon Greyshade is actually the owner of the flying car Anakin stole. It's actually the clones.
I think that's right.
Is that true?
They tried to connect it in the lore back to the Marvel comics. That's when it's around the time in the early 2000s when they were trying to bring the Marvel comics back in, maybe a little bit before. So the Marvel comics were out of canon during the Bantam era. There were some exceptions with things like there's reference to the Marvel comics in some of the essential guides, but as the 2000s came around, they pretty much established the fact that all of the 1977 series Marvel comics are back in continuity, and they started making connections to things like the prequel movies. So I think he's right about that.
Also, Eunice says, before we get into the actual plot, Leia casually kicks the coffee table, and then Onyx says this makes Simon flirting with Leia even more creepy. He's already old enough to drive before she was even born, so yeah, that's a fair.
And I think she's there against her will, because I think once she actually got onto the wheel, she was taken by the wheel security, the people in the green suits, and brought to Senator Greyshade, because I think it's established that Greyshade has a liking to Leia. Like, he admired her from their time in the Imperial Senate, and he thinks like he can just woo her over here by either trying to save her friends or just making her a deal that where she has to go off with him. But we'll see that later on.
He's also made a deal with Commander Strom,
where they split some of the profits that are being pirated, but not really pirated. They're just made to look pirated so that the Empire doesn't need to account for it. So Strom and Greyshade are splitting the proceeds for that operation.
Yenis also says we actually see Simon in 46 to 49 of Republic, and he already has some gray hairs by then. So this guy must be pretty old.
So is that meant to be a mouse droid in the bottom right panel?
Looks like it.
Yeah. I like Onyx comment that if you think about it, Simon Greyshade is kind of like a proto-Lando. I guess I can see it. His choice of attire is not as fantastic as Lando's is, but I can kind of see what you mean by that. So that's fair.
Definitely Dracula looking with that pop collar.
I'm not saying that out loud. I'm not going to repeat it. I just think it's funny, so I'll leave it up there for a second. But
why can't you say that?
Oh, and then I just think I just don't want to derail it too much, but it's really funny. I recently read Black Fleet Crisis, and it mentions Ormond Tag. I don't think we've seen Tag yet, but that's awesome because I love the Tag villains in these.
I don't remember that actually.
Well,
but I believe it.
The ships that have been raided by the Empire, the ones containing the wheel profits, those belonged to the House of Tag.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, really? Wrong.
Because there's a Tag. There's a Tag merchant fleet or something, transport fleet.
That sounds right.
I think Mastercom might be my favorite character in this arc.
He does get a lot of screen time.
He's quite a unique droid too.
Yeah, and then there's a bluish purple version, and then at the end there's like a gold version. And for a couple panels, I thought they were dealing with C-3PO, but he actually comes back in another form, or maybe there's another copy of him. I didn't quite get that.
So the real reason for Leia kicking over the table, or
say that again, Robert.
So the real reason for Leia knocking all the stuff on the floor and kicking over the table, she's grabbed a knife there.
Oh, yeah. She's slick.
From the Caribbean, it's incredible. Well, thanks for being here. Also, Lucas goes, and to make it even more creepy, they established that Greyshade loves Leia for a long time, since the Senate. And she's 19
Ugh.
at the time. Maybe she's part of the Senate since 18. I don't know.
Yeah. How old do we think Greyshide is? He's got to be pretty
I-
old because he was old in the
Yeah.
Republic comics. And Leia wasn't born yet.
I mean, I know humans live longer in Star Wars just because,
Maybe,
I don't know,
maybe he's not a
medicine or
human.
movie.
Maybe he's a vampire.
Yeah, my Count Dracula comment. It all comes full circle. Here
Yeah.
we go.
He's an Anzati.
That would be a twist. That would mean immediate execution because I hate Anzati, and the EU has not shown us a single redeeming quality in any single one. So I'm here to petition the Star Wars community that we, the one time the genocide is okay, we get rid of the Anzati because all they do is eat people.
I think the stream is going to be flagged for a strike already. We're only 16 minutes in, so we're off to a good start.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep quiet for a second. Let's keep going. She became a senator in 17. Sorry, you just said that. So we know that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, you could speculate all you want about Graveshide. I do like the elevators in the wheel. They look really cool. They come down. Everybody has their own like personal little speeder within the wheel. So I guess they go around the perimeter. I don't quite know how that works, but he's got a little droid pilot there. Takes him wherever he wants to go. And then he goes and sees Commander Strom, the Imperial, who gives him a drink. And they discuss what they're trying to do with the casino profits there. And I guess Strom basically wants all the rebels dead, and he wonders what you're doing with Princess Leia, why you just didn't kill her immediately. And then Greyshide says, well, I'm kind of attracted to her, you know, I'm going to win her over. And then they have a fight at the end there where Strom doesn't like that idea.
At one point, Greyshade says something like, I'm going to make her love me.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's very full of himself, has a high degree of confidence for sure. Definitely. Despite his age.
And Strom says here, a man of no principles attempting to win the affection of a woman with such high ones.
That's interesting that the Imperials like blatantly like, oh yeah, I'm a bad guy. To admit that he's like, yeah, she does. She has incredible morals and integrity, and you should have killed her. So
this is the first time, and this occurs in a couple of the other issues too, but I think this is the first time where we really see the pacings off. I guess they were trying to provide a little bit more background to the villains here, Strom and Greyshide, but I felt it goes on a little bit too long here. What do you guys think about that?
I definitely feel it dragged on a little bit more than necessary. I appreciate like fleshing out the villains, making them a little bit more than two-dimensional. Like they actually have like a solid plan that they're trying to enact, but at the same time, like maybe cut out some of these speech bubbles, make it more concise. Let's not spend so much time on it. But it is what it is again.
I think this was a little bit of a recap too. So instead of like explaining it in the narrative form, what happened in the previous issues, they're talking about it firsthand. So it's a little bit of a reminder of what happened in the prior issues. So
yes.
Greyshade and Lex Luthor having a conversation, peak moment. That's funny.
Does look like Lex Luthor.
Though they may not realize it, they're all awaiting execution.
Because Luke is in the medical bay because he had fallen unconscious. This is the whole reason they took Luke to the wheel to get treatment to begin with. And I guess Greyshide has tipped everybody off that like Han should lose in the casino. Chewbacca gets sent to the fight gladiator arena, and then Luke is going to get killed. So he's not actually getting treated for his condition. They're just going to kill him. So that nurse is going to just drug him to death and kill him where he lays. Pretty savage, but that's the plan.
What's Han holding here?
Looks like a double-sided spatula.
Yeah, that is what it looks like. I cannot. I was gonna say like a paddle, which I guess it could be, but with the way it's drawn, I really don't know. I don't know.
So I guess this is training for his gladiator match, and we'll see they do have shields, so they'll have a blaster and then a shield, and then
like
I think
shield around them.
No, like a personal shield, like you see, like Shadows of the Empire. Prince Shizor has like a personal shield. We'll see that later on. It comes up as a plot point, but this is just training for his upcoming matches, which are going to be used. I guess they're going to put him in a class that's higher than he should be, and they're going to hope that he just dies that way by matching him up against a fighter that's just going to kill him.
And Han pawned the droids.
Because he was losing in gambling, and I think he had to pay up because they charged when the Falcon actually landed on the wheel. They charged some sort of docking fee and storage fee, and they were just tacking on all these fees. So he was trying to win some of that money back, and he wasn't able to.
Yes.
I also don't like the art for C-3PO here, and then R2-D2 again does not have any blue. He's just all black and white here. So
at least they draw him pretty well. I mean, the colors are off, but it actually looks like R2. So like you have no trouble recognizing.
C-3PO, he's got like the handsome filter on his face. I don't know, but buff C-3PO is what Lucas says.
Yes, his body proportions are a bit off.
Yeah. So the droids here are appropriated by the wheel, and they're scheduled to have their memories wiped when Mastercom rescues them. And they develop a relationship basically with Mastercom because he notices that when the droids brought Luke in, they were trying to save Luke's life. So he sees that they really care about their human master, and he finds that like he's never seen that before. He finds that fascinating. So he kind of wants to have a same relationship with his master as R2 and 3PO have with Luke.
Yes.
So he gains their trust, and that also comes into play later on.
So here we have Han in the sort of preliminary fight.
Yep, with the four-armed guy. And they don't have blasters here. Han has a mace and a shield, and it looks like the other alien has a bunch of sharp objects.
Looks like teeth or something. The original Grievous. That's funny.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We have a nice double page spread here.
It's very cool.
Dagger thorns. Those things secrete a venomous sap. Just a scratch is enough for a kill.
I've been trained in your smuggler arts by Count Greyshade.
So Han just tries smacking him with the mace. He tries smacking him with the shield. He actually breaks his mace to where he sees like this guy isn't going to be beat. Like he just doesn't have the strength to take him out, and gets kicked in the face there. And then meanwhile, on the next page, everybody's watching. There's a bet going on who's going to win, and the crowd's really.
They're in different weight classes. So.
Right. So we see Strom here. He looks like he's in a dentist chair. I guess it's meant to look comfortable, but it doesn't really seem like it. Reminds me of the dentist.
It hurt your back.
And then we jump around back to the droid. So there's a lot of jumping back and forth And again, I think this is a little bit of a pacing issue. A lot of text, a lot of dialogue between the droids and Mastercom. I know he basically brings the droids in to try to save Luke. He lets him know that I think Luke's not really getting treated for his condition there, but Luke had left by the time they get there. And we don't actually see what happens to Luke until a future issue. I think it's in the next issue.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't like the fact that there was so much dialogue here because, I mean, if this was a novel, that'd be fine, but this is a comic. And so
Right.
part of the thing is the visual aid of it. So it definitely felt very exposition heavy. Didn't feel natural. Just felt like we need to get this information out. So there you go.
It really takes away from the fight. I think they did a good job with the fight and creating this 4-armed creature and having a 2-page spread of Han getting kicked in the face. And then immediately, like, we jump to another scene. Not the best choice, I think. Looks like Auto Tech here has a comment. Strom watching with a drink in a comfy chair reminds me of Admiral Screed watching the Bunta race in droids. Yeah, definitely.
And we've got Leia here using the knife to short circuit the door.
It's funny how that works. You just works every time.
Yeah, but apparently she forgot how to do. She forgets how to do this in the Battle of Endor when the bunker door. You can't do the same thing.
No. Well, maybe I don't think she. I was gonna say she didn't have a knife on her, but she could have asked the Ewoks. Sorry, Robert.
You would think it would just cause the door to be stuck shut.
Yeah, that would be the default, is to just shut it. I think for safety's sake, right?
Logic. Right. Or it was the Force.
Like when Luke shoots the door controls in A New Hope, it doesn't open the door.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Admiral Screed in the headcanon of the Stark hyperspace war. Wow.
Could probably make that work, but
I guess he's old. Yeah, I guess he's old enough.
Yeah.
So Mastercom knows that Leia's escaped.
Right. And then we see the droids. They see that Han is knocked out and seemingly approaching his death there with the guy with the poison. What'd you say they were, Robert?
Dagger thorns.
Dagger thorns, yeah, coming at him.
Dagger thorns. Fun name.
Then Han grabs the shield there, tosses it at him like a frisbee, takes out his legs, makes him fall on his feet, or fall on his face there, rather, and falls on one of the dagger thorns, poisoning him. So fell on his own sword, literally.
Hate it when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I do like this. Han picking up the boulder and using it to block the. Yeah.
Instead of a shield, because he tossed his shield away, so had to grab something else. But there's just no taking out Han, man. He took out Crimson Jack. He's got to be the best hand-to-hand fighter, best shot, quickest shot in the galaxy. Don't mess with Han.
To me, I definitely got like, if this was live action back when this came out, this very much to me gave the Kirk episode where he fights that big lizard thing.
Mm-hmm.
I very much got the same sort of vibe with Han and this creature, so I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah. And then Strom says, "Gray shied, you smooth mouth fumbler. What went wrong?" I'm not certain, Strom, but bear in mind, this was only a preliminary match. Solo must still endure the main event.
Shadow of a Dark Lord. the next title.
That's the end of issue 20. So what do we think about issue 20?
Robert, you want to start?
Well, it's moving things along. We've got some interesting developments with Mastercom, and we haven't caught up with Chewbacca yet, but
We have not.
that's coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly something's happened with Luke. We don't know what yet. Who calls someone a who calls someone a smooth-mouthed fumbler?
That's such a.
They couldn't
funny line.
swear because of the Comics Code. The what is it called? Approved by the Comics Code Authority. So they couldn't say anything bad. That was the worst insult you could direct at somebody under these rules, I guess.
I just find it a bit funny that he calls him that, and in the foreground we see Greyshades' moustache.
It is quite an illustrious mustache. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
quite mixed on this one. There's a lot of stuff that I enjoyed. Some nice developments, some interesting deepening of character and lore. But then, like Scott pointed out, there's just a lot of stuff that felt like padding, and so just kind of dragged it down. And if I feel like a comic's taking too long to get done, then it's doing it wrong because it's a comic. It's supposed to be short and sweet. So, I don't know.
It was very much like a recap of where all the characters were, except for Chewbacca, but it was a recap of the droids. Obviously, they have to develop a relationship with Mastercom that comes into the end of this comic arc here. But it was a little bit too much time. I appreciate what they were trying to do with developing the characters of Greyshide and Strom, but the pacing was just off. It was a little bit too much time devoted to that and not enough to the main fight, which was the big action scene, which was Han versus the four-armed guy. And then it jumped around, it immediately jumped around and broke up that fight in a way it shouldn't really have. So I understand what this issue was trying to do to move forward the story, but I think the pacing was off.
Yeah, agreed.
So, Shadow of a Dark Lord. I have a calendar next to me, and for March, it is the cover for this issue.
Mm-hmm. I think there's also a T-shirt as well that has the Marvel Comics. I think it's just this cover, but it is on a T-shirt as well. So it's a very famous cover art, I think, because it has Vader there. I mean, it's really the first issue of the Marvel 1977 run that has Vader on the cover, I believe. If you don't count like the 1 through 6, the ones that tie into the movie, right?
Yeah. We got Leia hiding.
Leia's looking very perky in these issues.
Yeah, somebody was having fun because somebody had to draw that and make it that way. So,
and I like I guess this is wheel security. He looks like he has eyeglasses there.
It's pretty cool. I like the fits for the security. It's different from what you'd expect from Star Wars, but it also doesn't necessarily feel out of place. So I kind of like this fit.
In these panels that you have on the screen now, it feels like it's integrated into the helmet. But the very first panel, it looks like he has, just regular eyeglasses right there.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Goes from white to green.
Maybe it was just the angle, the lighting.
I mean, there's a little bit of white there. Maybe it's just really shiny. It looks white in the first one, but
we get Leia being awesome. Look at her go. That's something. Right.
She says she stuns him, but that sure looks like a laser blast. So I think she just killed the dude, to be honest with you.
Maybe she just said that to look better. Yeah. I mean, you're definitely stunned if you can't move because you're dying. So
Yeah, but I mean,
Maybe she expects
sunblasts are blue. We saw it in A
Yeah.
New Hope. So either they forgot what it looks like, or Leia just doesn't know the difference between kill and stun.
Or Carmine Infantino doesn't.
That's probably the more likely answer.
Mm. Anyway, we see more elevators. I like the elevator design. Really cool looking there.
I could do without the arrow.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
there's some
what's the point
signage
of
in
that?
the hallway. I don't think it's in this scene, but later on in the wheel where it says like Gray Shades, you know, his office or whatever. There's signage on the doorway or in the hallway, and it's not in Arabic; it's in just regular English.
We've got a recap here.
Yeah, this is a flashback actually, where Vader goes to the, well, I think it's just an idea that Leia is thinking about the Empire and their reach. Like if she doesn't succeed, more star systems are going to fall under the crushing stride of the Empire, crushing all resistance. But it's cool that they have an idea that the Empire's fleet is galaxy wide. Like there's plenty of star destroyers out there. It really feels like they have a good idea of what the expanded universe develops into just from these comic issues way back in, what is this, 1978? I think we're in.
I think so.
I do like seeing all these star destroyers together in one panel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks very similar to another flashback episode where I think it's in the next issue. Vader actually goes to a rebel base to try to find out more about the rebels that destroyed the Death Star. But Valance was already there, as we find out.
I think this is that issue.
Oh, it's that issue? Okay. It kind of looks like it. It kind of looks like they're on the same planet, but it's just Leia's thought bubble here.
Oh, he's wearing his underwear. Poor Luke.
Yes.
I mean, they foresaw him in the Bacta tank in Empire Strikes Back. Exactly. It makes me think that they had some idea where the Empire Strikes Back was going, because we see Vader is obsessed about finding the Millennium Falcon, the rebels that destroyed the Death Star. Obviously, you could kind of figure that out based on how the first movie ended, but it very much matches the direction of the story where the Empire Strikes Back would go, I think.
And here we find out what happened to Luke.
Mm-hmm.
And this part I quite like.
Yep. He has a Force experience.
Yes. Which you can kind of infer from what was it, issue 18, that was probably the case, but here we find out for certain.
There's no escape.
I like
Luke,
it.
not this way.
I like how he's just floating in space.
Yes.
So I think it's kind of cool. It's a nice like visual that you can imagine, like it was live action. He's in his head. He's in space talking to Ben. I think it's a nice visual, and it's a good way to have a, I mean, obviously it's not the actor, it's just a comic book, but to bring the likeness of Obi-Wan back in a way that makes sense. So I think it's pretty awesome.
Very,
like,
very similar to his experience in Dagobah at the cave. So we see Vader, and he's not really fighting Vader, but a similar experience.
You're right now. His hair is also really long in these, which is really funny.
Mm-hmm. He's got a blaster. He tries to shoot Vader, and then Obi-Wan makes an interesting reference. The weapon is only a tool, Luke. An extension of your inner will. True power must come from the depths of your soul. So he just grabs Vader's arm there, tries to pry the lightsaber out, and then we
He's strike back or fight back. It's really funny. Those are both italicized.
Yes,
in
with all the
emboldened.
power within me. And then we jump back to real life there, where he just pries himself out of that restraint that's trying to kill him. And Luke looks pretty buff there. I don't know where
He does look quite buff. He's got long hair. He's buff. He looks like Conan if he was blonde. And
I'm assuming
also interesting that the Force can do this for you. I mean, this would be useful in quite a few instances, but at least he's able to use it here to just break metal off of his arms like he's like He-Man. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
So,
he's been putting in the gym time at Masasi base there to get those muscles.
he might have
He's
been
doing
having some
push-ups every
telekinetic
second.
assistance there.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure it was a little bit of like a force push plus strength sort of thing. We have obviously we're talking about publication wise, but if you go chronologically speaking back to the Clone Wars, I forget which comics they were, but Aayla Secura meets this I forget his name, this Asian Jedi, and he doesn't even use a lightsaber. He just uses his fists with the Force, and he punches things really hard. So
Yes,
there's precedence for it. Not right now, but I guess this provides precedence for that later. So,
So Luke gets his stuff out of his locker, his farm boy clothes, and I guess his lightsaber, which is yellow in this frame for some reason. I think it's red in the next panel on the next page, but interesting color choice. And
it is
then
quite funny to
thank you,
imagine
thank you, Eunice.
Luke
Shanjo.
getting dressed while in his mind still battling Vader, or at least this thing that looks like Vader.
He's like running out into the hallway, and then we go back to the panel in his dream where he's fighting Vader in open space. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's like he's like awake, but he hasn't. He's still hallucinating this. So
he's finished. I've avenged you. I've beaten Darth Vader. No, Luke, it's not Darth you've conquered. Merely a shadow of him. A shadow that is your own fear. The fear that was making you draw into yourself, lose yourself in your own mind, perhaps forever.
I think they did a great job with Obi-Wan's dialogue there. Very well done.
I could like hear like Alec Guinness like saying it. Like that's how well they did.
Yeah. A lot of Han's dialogue is kind of cheesy, kind of. I guess it would resemble something he'd say, but it doesn't seem accurate. But here, they got Obi-Wan spot on.
Well, Han gets a lot of reminder text.
Mm-hmm. That's true, but he also makes some really stupid mentions, I think, sometimes.
Yes.
Here's the red lightsaber, because we can't have a consistent color for the. It's not even a different issue; it's the same issue. But
the very next page, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I guess Luke just goes around swinging that lightsaber, still in a trance, and he takes out all the wheel security guards, just hacks them to death. Pretty
they're
crazy.
Totally dead. There's no...
So Leia shot somebody in cold blood, then Luke's just hacking down all the guards.
Well, at least she's stunned.
He's having a schizophrenic dream. There's no way he's stunned him.
He says, I did this. Must have been out of my head, totally berserk, fighting that trance I was in.
What I mean, also, what's interesting about that too, though, is like he's not had that much experience with lightsaber, right? He did some practice with it before Obi-Wan died, and then he didn't touch a lightsaber for like the rest of the movie. So, also that means like, was that Obi-Wan? Was that the Force? Because he's not that skilled with the lightsaber right now. But I mean, I guess they just have blasters, but still, that's.
He's been training with that remote, I guess. I like Autotech's comment here. Call me George Lucas because I'll add a speech bubble of Vader going, no, when Luke beats Vader in that vision. Like the special edition or the super special edition.
Yeah. That's great.
So not actually Vader. Luke touched Vader's mind and panicked, and that was a representation of Luke's fear.
Mm.
But as for whether he's... Would Splinter of the Mind's Eye have happened yet? I know that's a difficult question with the Marvel series, but... there is
one
that
moment
bit at the
while
end.
we check. Originally published 1978. What month?
March.
February. It says February 12th,
Right.
1978.
I missed
says
this
March
back
on the
when, but
cover,
Luke
but-
running through the stars actually foreshadows Leia in The Last Jedi. It was planned all along. Luke
So
running through the stars.
It would have happened just before this comic was released, like just weeks before.
Right.
But they touch on the same things that would make you fall to the dark side, as we see Yoda taught him in Empire Strikes Back. So giving in to fear, that sort of thing. The similar vision in the cave, reliance on weapons. So just the same theme. So I wonder if they got some insight to the Empire Strikes Back, because they hit it very similarly. Could be a coincidence, but I doubt it.
Yeah, it is a very similar idea. So I'm feeling there has to be something to that. But we're still a few years away from the movie. So
I like this moment here where Luke says, "I touched someone else's mind only for an instant, just in passing. It was twisted, evil, and strong. Worst of all, at contact makes certain what we could only suspect up to now. Darth Vader is alive."
And he's searching for us.
Yes.
I guess they would assume I mean, I don't know why they would assume he died. He did go spiraling after the Death Star, but that doesn't mean he was dead. But I guess they were just being helpful. Okay.
How'd they even know Vader was in that TIE fighter? They have really good intelligence.
That's true. How would they know that? I mean, Vader didn't talk to him at all.
I guess they could have thought he died in the Death Star explosion, which would make sense, right? He was on the Death Star. They could only assume that he died. But then we go to the interlude that I thought was referenced earlier, but it was just Leia's thought bubble. So Vader goes to this mid-system planet Ultar, and it's a rebel base or a rebel outpost, I guess you would say, because there's only a few rebels on it. But he tries to find information about Luke and the rebels that had destroyed the Death Star. But he finds that a lot of the rebels there were already killed or mauled by Valance, who had already been there. So if you remember a couple issues back, Valance had came across some information about two droids, R2 and 3PO, and their relationship with Luke, or it wasn't named Luke Skywalker, but it was the rebel that had destroyed the Death Star. And it was them like going through and escaping the Death Star, going back to the rebel base, and then ultimately the attack on the Death Star, which destroyed it. And Valance doesn't like droids. He doesn't like any mechanical entities. And just because Luke's friends with these droids, he took upon himself to go after that bounty. Now, I don't think he knows Luke Skywalker by name, but he's going after the farm boy that had destroyed the Death Star. I believe that much is known to the wider galaxy.
Yes.
So he had the same trace to this rebel outpost as Vader did, but he actually came before Vader did, and Vader finds that Valance had already been there. Sorry, go ahead, Robert.
He came across Don Juan Quixote and heard him talking to himself and mentioning a boy and two droids, and assumes that that's Luke, and it turns out it's not. It's Jim the Starkiller Kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But Valance is a bounty hunter, and I think there was like some sort of bounty that the Empire had on him as well, right?
Yes.
Head on the farm boy, the unnamed pilot that destroyed the Death Star.
So Vader finds a surviving rebel here and gives him Valence's name. And we have an implied stabbing here.
Right.
Also-
the rebel is injured and he's just begging to help ease the pain. And Vader says, ease the pain, rebel. I'll end it immediately.
Yeah. It's quite it's pretty it's as he says, it's a pretty cold line. That's pretty good.
Yes.
What you would expect from Darth Vader, of course.
Yeah.
Interesting. I seem to have a rival, perhaps even a formidable one.
Yeah.
I like this part, though, this interlude, because not only do we get to see Vader, we get to the establishment of his obsession, really, to find Luke. Now, he doesn't know Luke by name at this point, but he can sense him in the Force. And we know that back from A New Hope. He's like, the Force is strong with this one. So he knows the pilot was Force sensitive.
If there's anything to do an old canon can agree on, it's giving Vader some really epic one-liners.
Yeah, I think they do it really well. And also they give Obi-Wan a pretty good dialogue as well. So I'm not sure. There was one part in this scene where I didn't understand really how Vader gets an idea that they all went to the wheel. Now, I guess they passed by the system where the false flag attack occurred on the tag transport. Maybe that's how they found out, but it wasn't really clear how Vader gets to the wheel here. Did you guys find anything odd about that, or did that make sense to you?
Yes. Vader, when Luke touched Vader's mind, Vader sensed that as well and basically goes, we need to go in that direction.
Okay. So that makes sense. So that ties into the whole fact where Luke fell into a trance, and that's why they got him to the wheel to seek medical attention in the first place. It was a Force.
Yes.
I don't want to say Force psychosis because that's Fate of the Jedi, but a similar, he was just incapacitated. He went unconscious.
This is an interesting note that Audic mates that note that Vader implies he believes himself to be the only one who could wield the Force, implying the Emperor isn't Force sensitive. Like maybe that was the idea George had back then, or what just the writers here thought. I don't know, but that is an interesting idea.
Yeah, Vader seems pretty sure that he killed all the other Jedi at this point. Like he's sure there's no other Jedi other than Luke.
No, we got hundreds.
Yeah, there are several out there, but
yeah.
Well, I think that's probably an assumption based on what Tarkin says in A New Hope.
Yeah.
So they went with the information that they had at the time. So I can't really fault them for that.
It's interesting that it's interesting that we still have more Imperial figures that are willing to insult Vader to his face, because that dear boy line's kind of crazy. I mean, to say that to Vader, that's crazy. It's a crazy thing to say. But
it sounds a bit vague to be tying up. It sounds a bit vague to be tying up my technicians, dear boy.
Yeah. Well, miss, I haven't been a boy for some years, and no one has ever rated me as dear.
I like how Vader just holds the comm like up to his face. It's just the funny.
He's like, I need to say this as slowly as intimidating as possible. I gotta sound like Robert as I'm speaking through the mic. He needs to understand he can't speak to me that way. It's great. I haven't been a boy for quite some time. Jake Lloyd flashbacks.
I want the nearest destination a ship passing us in those coordinates might have been headed for. We'll start with that.
Vader has his tie advanced there, back online.
I see, like the Marvel comics can sometimes be silly. They can sometimes be out there. They're not always striving. They're not always doing fantastic. But then you get stuff like this. And I go, how can people ever not like? People used to be like, oh, it's not canon. It's too silly. But like, this is so solid. Like this, like even with stuff that has come out by like John Ostrander and stuff, I still say this stuff that like right here, this is solid stuff. I really like this stuff when I read it the first time, and I really loved it. Going through the second time, this part doesn't matter what age it came from, 70s to 2000s. This is good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, the Dear Boy line was a little out of place, but the
Yeah,
rest of this,
Well,
this section felt like it could have occurred even in like 2013, 2014, could have occurred in 1999 with Vader's Quest. So it's very similar to any other classic era Star Wars comic that occurs between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
Well, that's a Britishism.
Oh, it is. Okay. See, Robert would know. So
yeah, but yeah, Karen Travis in here with throwing in all the British terms from the Clone Wars. So whoever wrote this knew their British nomenclature. Is that the right word? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's right. Then we go back to the wheel with Senator Grayshide and Mastercom.
I like this panel here of the wheel.
That's pretty cool. It's very detailed. I also like it was kind of like orangey, like maybe the sun in this system's like kind of beaten down on it.
Yes.
So.
Yep. So I guess he gives some authority to Mastercom. Technically, my own master computer is devoting himself to the rebel droids. So it's made clear that Mastercom is kind of friendly with the droids, or at least noticed that he respects their relationship with Luke there.
Well, earlier when he was talking to R2 and 3PO, he says, I'm doing this on very dubious authority.
Because he has to follow his programming. But I think he's given some authority to, because he is the master computer of the wheel, he does have some authority to do certain things, like open the dock door where the ships land.
Yes.
I think is one of them.
And here Grayshade says, you did what? And Mastercom goes, well, I mean, you didn't say I couldn't.
Yeah.
Right. So again, he's really a stickler for rules and following his authority. He doesn't do anything outside of his parameters. But
Yes.
if there's something he can do, he will help R2 and 3PO.
And as far as his parameters go, that comes into play later.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
I like this moment here. I don't like how Mastercom is drawn in this panel, but
No, yeah,
but
but
I
what's said.
very
I like
square.
this moment where he goes, I know you're not a good person, but you gave me a measure of humanity, and therefore if I were to have a friend, I'd want it to be you.
That is, yeah.
Right. That's it. That is his master, right? He is the administrator of the wheel. So wants to have a good relationship with him. But unfortunately, Grayshide is not that great a person. But there is a little bit of redemption at the end. Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but
Yes.
we
And
find. Go ahead.
Grayshade seems quite thrown by this. He doesn't really know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And
It again gets into the issue of droids and their personship, and do they have souls or not? You know, I mean, this is the same universe where you can just completely erase a droid's memories if they're being problematic. You know, it's like a factory reset. They do that quite frequently. They do it to C-3PO, which is why he doesn't remember anything from the prequels.
there's something very strange
but-
going on here with Mastercom's torso.
Yeah. It's a little bit too long.
But it's interesting that even here, you have this stuff with the droids, and it's truly more than just like programming. Like there is intelligence here that's going beyond its programming, wanting something more than just its job, which I think is really interesting to be brought up, because it's something that doesn't get addressed a lot in Star Wars.
I like this panel here, this moment with Grey Shade here in the foreground with that expression on his face. It's very telling.
Yeah.
And Storm asks about it, and he goes, "Oh, it's just details. Perhaps it's given me a little too much to think about."
Mm-hmm. He's really shook by what the droid told him.
Yes.
Yep.
And then
now blasters are pink.
Yeah, then we go back to Commander Strom's. This is inside his light cruiser in the wheel dock, and it looks like Wheel Security is trying to take the loot from the Empire here. So
Yes.
Grey Shade's trying to steal a little bit more than he had in the deal. So they just take out the stormtroopers there and try to steal all of the profits that the Empire is taking out of the wheel. And
most of his stormtroopers are on shore leave at the moment, and he just left a skeleton crew behind, and they're just going in there, wiping out all of them and taking the profits.
Right. He gives them shore leave to watch the big game, the gladiator match.
Yes.
That Han won. But we also see Luke, Leia, R2, and 3PO are in there. And R2 actually records what's going on. R2's getting this on tape, Princess. What's our next move? We follow them, Luke. Right. We follow them, Luke. Wherever they're taking those strong boxes. Well, I needed something to shake this Darth Vader business from my mind. This should be plenty. And then we go back to Han. So this is again the pacing issue is a little jumpy at this point of the issue. But Han finds out he just won a preliminary match and actually has to go fight again. This time multiple people, and he's given a blaster this time and a personal shield. And he finds out one of his opponents is Chewbacca that he has to fight. So we find what Chewbacca's been up to this whole time.
And Han asks, could I just take my winnings and go? And the guy says, well, you could, but you've still got other fees besides the fine for illegal entry that you need to pay off. And if you can't pay off the rest, we'll just send you to Kessel.
Yeah, they really have it in for Han.
Yeah.
We get almost naked Luke. Now we have topless Han Solo fan service, and we wouldn't get Leia in a bikini for another 6 years. That's funny. All this objectification of Luke and Han, I tell you.
I mean, we get Han with his shirt off at the Aduba arc, right, where he's recruiting those people.
Yes, Barry's just sitting there with no shirt for no reason.
He wanted to show off his body. I mean, who could blame the man? Yeah.
And Lucas just says this too.
While conducting interviews.
Yeah.
With the woman, no less. So it's like, who's trying to recruit who here?
Yeah. Oh no, one of them's Chewie.
I like how they're all green, like all the other opponents are just green
Little green
Martians.
man. Little green Martian. Mars attacks.
And he looks like he has a gun, what do they call it, a Boomba? One of those.
Oh yeah, those balls. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's a little tiny shield.
Yeah, it's a shield, but it looks like one of those gun explosive devices.
Yes.
That's so weird. It's like they never use that like ever again. Like these like little ball shields. What was this like Dune? like what is that? Like it's a little tiny shield. How was it even supposed to block? I don't know. It was a little silly to me, but
Reminds me of those little handheld Velcro things where you'd throw like a tennis ball and it would stick to it.
I remember that. Yeah.
Kind of like that. Yeah, Chewbacca's got a green one, and then Han's got a blue one.
Well, in that panel, they both have green in the second one, so the bottom one.
Yes.
So one thing that I don't like about these issues is I don't understand on the same page how you could be inconsistent with the color. Like I don't know how comic books work. I'm not an artist, I'm not a colorist. I don't know. But you would think if you're writing something on the same, or somebody else wrote it, right? They have that done, the drawing's done. You just have to color it in, like so you could see the whole thing. Is how I imagine that would work. I don't see how you make these mistakes on the same page. But it is what it is.
And it's not a lighting thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're just trying to incorporate a couple more colors there, I think.
Yeah.
Make
They
it
also
look
get a uncomfy shot of Chewbacca's feet, which I never needed and never want to see again. So that's
a little weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how everybody's just fighting out in space here, and they can somehow breathe in space. There's
they're not actually in space. The arena is just
right.
designed to look like this.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
It's like a holodeck, kind of like from Star Trek.
So, what do we think of issue 21?
It was fine. Everything with Vader though was peak. That was good stuff.
Yeah, that was a good part of it.
But
Vader and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Those were the highlights. And again, I like that moment with Mastercom.
Looks like we are getting Chewbacca fan service.
A little too much dialogue with Strom and Greyshide, though. Again, kind of the same thing.
I agree with that. To the last gladiator, Han Solo versus Chewbacca. Issue 22 now.
And then another.
Okay, so here we find out it's an illusion. It looks like deep space, but it's an illusion. They have floating planetoids and a shimmering star field, the zero gravity. This is an arena.
Yes.
And these planetoids explode if you get too close. And we find out if you shoot your blaster, Han's blaster doesn't even work. That's how much they have it in for him. But if you shoot your blaster, you kind of like move backwards. And some of these gladiators actually shoot their blaster and then fall back into the planetoid. The planetoid explodes, and then they just get killed that way. So
yeah,
kind of weird. And we have a blue background on the next page. They couldn't make up their mind with color. Shift to blue.
So. Yeah, that is
don't know what that's about.
Here, Han doesn't. I mean, he usually does in these comics. Let's be real, but even more so, I don't know who this is, but that's not Han. That's not Harrison Ford. I don't know who this person is. If anything, he kind of looks like Ash from The Evil Dead, but like not my Han. Hashtag not my Han Solo. That's all I gotta say. So.
Well, that's what zero gravity does to you. It distorts your appearance.
Yeah, just switches it around, you know.
Han's getting shot a bit here.
But he's avoiding all of it somehow.
I like how he says cripes. Cripes is a very 70s word.
Vegeta Han Solo moment. That's amazing. Anybody who knows Dragon Ball Z, that's a hilarious comment.
And these blasters are called needle rays. So
Needle rays.
So I would assume not as high powered as a standard blaster. Thinner,
But enough to kill you, I think.
yes.
Yeah. And it looks like we got either the same guy or another.
See,
Well, that's a little racist of me, but it looks to be the same guy that he fought earlier, but it could be just another type that just has the same fit, like the same outfit.
Oh, no, the
That
guy who
shoots the
fought-
blaster. Yeah.
the guy who fought earlier died.
Okay, so there's another one.
And he had 4 arms too. This guy only has 2 arms.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. I think they're the same race though. Then.
Right. The other
but
guy
there's
just
this
had
one-
Fires his
4-arm
blaster.
deformity.
Fires his blaster. Flies straight into the planetoid. It explodes.
That's what I was gonna say. I was busy giggling. Yeah. Cripes.
Except Han's blaster doesn't work because they gave him they gave him one that doesn't.
Mhm. But he takes out his shield and reflects some of the laser blasters that people fire at him, and he just deflects it right back at him, kills a couple of the guys, and then all of a sudden finds himself floating to one of the exploding planetoids. Chewie grabs his leg, kind of saves his life there, because he almost exploded, loses, I guess, one of his blasters. He finds out Chewbacca's blaster doesn't work either. So they have it in for Chewbacca, trying to kill them both.
Back to
Apparently
Chewbacca looking like Sasquatch again.
Right.
I like just
Apparently
put the
those
fur
shields
over
are
the
called
face. Sorry.
Apparently those shields are called ray shields.
And take out a couple more of those people, and it looks like one of them's human in that panel to the top right.
Oh yeah.
Deflect one of their shots. Use it to blow up the planetoid behind them.
Yeah. And they just get fried when that thing explodes. You can see their skeletons almost.
Swim against the explosion's shockwaves, Chewie. I don't know how that's supposed to work.
So they're like in a big pool. They could just swim around. And we move to Grayshide and Strom watching it on screen there. And way too much
That looks a
dialogue.
little bit more-
between these.
Yeah.
So-
I was gonna
say
say
that
the chair. I was gonna say the chairs look a little bit more comfortable this time.
Yeah, not dentist chairs.
But yeah, I agree. Also, too much dialogue again.
We find out, I think one of the drinks he serves him is actually supposed to be poison or drugs.
Yes.
But then we jump to 3PO-R2, Leia and Luke going through the hallway there, and they run into wheel security. So too much jumping around between scenes, I think. We never get a complete
There's no like
thought.
coherence to it, you know, like there's no flow to the switching between. And I think that's an issue. You'll spend a lot of time on one thing and then you'll finally go back to the other thing. Like with this whole, they're doing the whole Chewie Han in this arena thing. And last time they did that, they had focus on Han for a second, jump to them, Han at the very end. And then what they should have done is have one focus just all on the Han thing for one issue. And then the next issue focus on the other, or find some way to better balance the two. Because as it stands like this, the majority of this issue seems to be Han and Chewie, and then like nearing the end of it, we're just jumping back to them and just kind of jarring.
Yeah.
Do so.
I mean, we see Luke jump, roll around, shoot all the elite guards there. He says he hasn't been a farm boy ever since the Battle of the Death Star. And then he and Leia, actually Leia gets captured by Grayshide. He suddenly appears there and takes a hold of Leia. Meanwhile, we see the
Luke dives and shoots 2 of them.
right. He shoots the whole squad, and they're supposed to be the elite wheel security guard.
Well, I don't think he manages to get the one on the far right.
Yeah, but he gets them below on the next panel.
Yeah.
So we see Greyshide and Leia. Gallant young friend is bent on conquering my private yacht. Since only my handprints can activate its control locks, let's arrange a truce before he, or more importantly, the craft is damaged. So doesn't want his nice space yacht to get damaged there. He doesn't care about the elite guard. It looks like one of them survives there. One of them is still standing, but the rest just taken out by Luke. And then we jump to the Star Destroyer, which is Vader trying to get to the wheel. Faster, Wormus. The slightest delay could cost me what I seek.
There's
And
something very strange going on with the perspective here.
Yeah, it doesn't look like hyperspace at all. Looks like they're going through.
If you look at it, if you look at this half, it looks like it's one way up, and then if you look at this half, it looks like it's the other way up.
Right.
See, this looks like the bottom, and this looks like the top.
Yeah, looks kind of icky.
So the Imperial commander mentions something interesting on the next page there on the top left. He says, come, Lord Vader. Be reasonable. My ship is at stake. We're utterly torturing the warp drive now. So apparently Star Destroyers have warp drives, not hyperdrives. Maybe that's why it's has red and black and yellow lines and not the traditional blue hyperspace lines that we're used to.
Somebody was watching Star Trek and got confused.
Maybe. It's easy to do.
Yes.
And then Vader chokes him because, he's been being a little too mouthy to Vader. Can't do that. And then we jump back to the wheel again. And Luke and Greyshide. Greyshide wants, I forget what he wants, but he makes some sort of deal with them where he wants Leia to come with him, and then he'll call off the battle between Chewbacca and Han that's going on there. He'll let Luke escape, won't kill Leia's friends if Leia agrees to come with him. And Luke says, no way, but Leia seems to think about it a little while, which is interesting. So what do you guys think of this part?
He's also planning to take the wheel profits because his men stole them from Strom's ship and put them on his yacht.
But he tells Leia that I have all these wheel profits and all this money. I'll buy you whatever you want if you come with me. So trying to win her over to allow Luke and Chewbacca and Han to go free. But
yeah,
it's kind of weird that she decides to think about it a while. Maybe she's just buying time.
That's the best I can come up with. It seems out of character for her to actually consider it. And then also, just because of who drew it, I don't like that she looks like a supermodel in this particular middle one. It just looks wrong. So,
yeah, they really can't draw Leia when she's facing head on because the sides of her head are too square.
Yes.
With the donut ears or donut hairdo.
Yeah.
Very creepy moment here. Under normal circumstances, as in our Senate days, you'd never give me the time to make you love me.
No, it's not good. Not good at all.
I'm merely creating circumstances where you can. So he's really obsessed with Leia, it seems like. Yeah. And Luke kind of gets upset at the deal, even though he's technically being allowed to go free. Obviously, he doesn't want Leia to go with Greyshide. But she says, or Luke says, she's not promising anything because I'm getting her out of here right now. Luke, that's not your decision. It's mine. So I don't know why Leia says that on the next page.
Yeah, I don't know.
Kind of out of character. But in the meantime, they're watching the gladiator match on screen there. And Han shoots one of the opponents, leaves a big smoking hole in his chest. Chewbacca takes out a Kit Fisto looking alien there. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Robert.
Gray Shade's ship. Actually, the design reminds me of the Futurama Planet Express ship.
It does actually kind of look like that. That's a funny connection. Actually, it'd be crazy is if Futurama read or some of the writers read this and use that. But very possible, actually. But well, you're right.
So
that does look like that does look like him, the alien.
Yeah, I think it's Kit Fisto, or at least his species.
I'm willing to believe that. It'd be cool to have more of a prequel era aliens retroactively inserted in here. So.
And then we see one of the planetoids explodes, and then Han says, "Chewbacca, you got to blast me. Do it fast. Damn it, Chewie, shoot!" And Han hides one of the. Well, I won't spoil it, but it looks like Chewbacca just shoots him in the chest there, and Leia and Luke see it. They're shocked. They're like, Han just died, and Leia was still trying to decide whether she was going to go with Gray Shade or not, but it kind of doesn't matter at this point because they all think Han died.
He also, Gray Shade seemingly loses his mustache and gets younger in these two panels.
They forgot to draw his mustache.
Yeah, and made his hair like a lighter blue instead of gray.
Gray, yeah.
Might be another coloring issue.
Or it might be he's a vampire.
So he's an Anzadi, guys. It's the truth. He wants Leia so bad because he's hungry. He doesn't actually want her sexually. He just wants her soup. See? Playing 40 chess. It's
I think that's a fair theory. There's a lot of evidence for it, it seems like.
Yeah.
It says, "Don't apologize, Simon. You've won. I can't watch anyone else I care for destroyed. Not after Alderaan. Not after this. You've won. But no one ever gained a more empty and bitter prize." And I like Gray Shade's face there. He's just like, he's just taking it.
He's just like, who asked? Like, don't care, did ask.
Yes.
I think he's a little upset Han died. I think he's feeling some regret about what he did.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting to.
I agree. I don't think Leia would do this unless she were actively planning to escape later on. Yeah. Because she promises that she's not going to, but I don't believe that.
Well, I mean, she could preliminarily just go off with him in his yacht and just take the first escape pod, out of the ship. At least Han and Chewie would be able to survive, and Luke would be able to get away, and then just meet up later. I mean, it doesn't seem like you could just agree to go with him temporarily and then change your mind later on.
Maybe steal the ship, arrive back at Yavin, and go, here you go.
Right.
Ship full of wheel profits.
Exactly. Pay off Han's debt to Jabba. Everybody wins.
Our last panel for the
that's the end of issue 22. So what do you guys think about that one?
About the same. It's okay. This one
a little bit
less.
little bit more action, but still jumping around. Like they never complete. Yeah. I understand what they're trying to do in showing what's happened with the different characters and the different events, but they jump around too quickly, I think.
The Han and Chewie stuff is fun.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. That's a lot of fun. Also, Leia be like, "Okay, Simon, I'll marry you, but only if you convince my dad first, Darth Vader." Yeah. Um,
I was going to say Bail Organa got blown up on Alderaan. But
yeah. That's because Lucas made a comment before saying Lady Vader is really intimidating because that's what the no Greek call her.
So this is our last issue. We're going to cover issue 23. We see Vader on the cover there with the Falcon. Pretty good drawing of the Falcon, not bad. And then we see the wheel. So I kind of like the cover there.
And then we have, I feel like intentionally Vader with the red visor and the eyelids, which is a bit interesting. I don't think that's a mistake because I know that's what he looked like in those early issues. They give him like red eyes.
He does have red eyes very prominently in the Tanavi 4 scene at the very beginning.
Right.
You're able to notice them a lot more than you are in some of the other parts of the films.
Yeah, most of the time it looks black. There's just occasionally where it comes across that it is red.
Yeah.
But that seemed like a deliberate choice. So it looks good though. So.
And we get a rear-facing view of the docking bay with the space yacht. And then Luke's leaving. But Luke's kind of pissed off that Leia was kind of considering going with Gray Shade.
She's going to bed.
Oh, see you, Yanis. Thanks for watching. And I guess Leia does technically agree. Like after she sees Han die, she's like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter now. I'm just going with Gray Shade." And Luke's upset about that. He takes one of the wheel security guys by the neck, or by the shirt collar.
Yes.
That's a pretty neat scene. Just
and
stomps
he seems
off.
Very taken aback by this.
Right. Yep. He's a little shook up, but obviously he thinks Han just died, and everybody's a little upset. Even Leia calls back to him, and there's another Leia and Luke kiss, another sibling kiss in this scene.
Oh boy, where's our number now? How many times have we had the kiss?
I think just 2.
Like, what? Just 2? Is this the second one?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna keep
the
that
embrace
up.
Is clumsy. The embrace is clumsy, the kiss awkward. But as he watches from the yacht's hatchway, Wheel Administrator Simon Greyshade senses feeling and emotion he can never know.
It would be even more awkward if he knew he's kissing his sister. I mean,
he's not allowed to be judgmental though. This guy's like 130 and is like hitting on a 19-year-old girl. So yeah. I
don't know what's old for an Anzati.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I never thought about it. I'll still consider it old. It's okay. Vampires are usually old, right? They look young.
His attraction to Leia is just because he wants to eat her brains. That's why.
Get the emotion from eating
the
brain suit, you know.
Yeah.
So. But he's jealous because he can see all this emotion going on with her kiss, and he's like, "But if I had her soup right now, I'd be feeling even more ecstasy." You know, like I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, Han's just floating in space there, seemingly dead. There's one more combatant who looks like he's a bat person. He's got wings.
A Tuluan Night Soarer.
Yeah. And Chewbacca finally takes him out. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, my bad. Lucas said Alderaan, more like Alabama. So
very true. Very true. So
Chewie shot first. Chewie shoots first.
Chewbacca seemingly wins the gladiator contest. But wait, Han's still alive. Han takes out the ray shield from underneath his shirt.
Which
I never would have guessed.
In the previous issue, here.
Mm-hmm.
He kicks one of his opponent's bodies into the last remaining planetoid, and while the smoke from that is clearing, he puts the shield under his shirt.
Oh, sleight of hand. I missed that, though. Obviously, I didn't think Han really died, but I wasn't sure how he actually... I thought maybe it was a stun blast or something, but no. It's a rage shield underneath his shirt.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, though. I like it a lot.
Yeah. He says, somehow I don't think they'll be amused. So for a moment, however, amusement runs high on the wheel. The Wookiee was the favorite. The computer pay lines are long. But as excited gamblers wait in the Grand Casino, stop! There's a rebel plot underway. So Strom has had enough. He would look like he was poisoned by Greyshide offering him a drink there. And it says, he looks drunk. I've been drugged, you fools. It's the work of the wheel administrator. He's part of the plot. So the Imperials move to take over the wheel, and stormtroopers are sent in, and he says, kill them all on sight. What are your orders, sir?
Despite throbbing head and churning stomach, Strom smiles inwardly. Years of immunity programming have enabled him to fight off a sleep drug meant to hold him for hours.
He's got a strong stomach.
Trained stomach, yeah. It's interesting.
And then the wheel people say, this is terrible. The Empire has never been allowed to interfere with the wheel before. I don't like gambling with a stormtrooper looking over my shoulder, but if it keeps us safe from rebel attacks, such as we've seen recently, then I'll accept it. So
kind of makes sense why they did the propaganda earlier, in case they needed to do something like this.
Sort of ties into that. And then the stormtroopers go after the master computer, Master Com, the red version. Now, I don't know if this is a different, there's multiple versions. But they say, blow it away. Stupid computer's gone crazy.
Yes, well, here he's talking about Greyshade tries to get him to open the docking bay, and Master Com says, I'm afraid I can't do that. Your authority as administrator has been rescinded. But as your friend, I will at least attempt to help you out. And the stormtroopers don't like that and decide to shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
And as we'll learn later, that's part of his plan.
Right. And then when the stormtrooper says, I'll have a search and destroy squad proceed immediately to docking bay 10. And then Luke and 3PO they see the stormtroopers. Luke, who's obviously very proficient with a blaster, as we saw him take out wheel security. He has no trouble with the stormtroopers there. And then we see... Sorry, go ahead.
Do this bit?
What?
Do you want to do 3PO here?
Oh.
Oh dear, not another battle. I don't believe my precipitory circuits are up to it. And the thought of poor R2-D2 lost in this madness.
So R2
and then lubricating
sneaks through the circuitry conduit and comes out the door that's perfectly suited to his size there.
What a
just coincidence, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they're wheeling out Han, who's seemingly died. They have him under a sheet there on a gurney. But the search and destroy team says they tell Chewbacca there's a warrant. There's a death warrant on you, serviceable right now. Instead of just shooting him on sight, they tell him, "Oh, we're going to serve a death warrant on you." I mean, not the smartest thing to do.
Don't talk, just shoot.
Right.
Stormtroopers never been good at that.
And then
Oh,
Han comes back from the dead. Somehow Han has returned. Just slips out underneath the sheet with a blaster.
Harrison Ford, when he read this comic and found out Han didn't die for real, super angry.
He probably was. And then they go to the docking bay with Gray Shade, Luke, and Leia. Luke senses Darth Vader approaching, so the Star Destroyer's almost at the wheel. And
I do quite like this panel here.
Yeah,
that's pretty great.
And,
but I shall be waiting for them.
Vader's gonna get what he wants. He's able to sense Luke is there. And then we go to the next scene where we have a gold version of Master Com who looks like 3PO there, but obviously not. I don't know how he comes back from being blasted in the last scene. Is this a different?
I imagine it's like
Mastercom isn't actually a droid. He's the master computer of the wheel.
Yeah.
He's able to
transfer from droid to droid.
Yeah, you'd have to blow up the computer to kill him.
He has these droid bodies that he's able to take control of. It would have been either issue 18 or 19, probably 19. We see him get shot by Strom, and then immediately after he just walks up to him with a new body and says, "The old one was getting rather worn anyway."
It's kind of like IG-88. I mean, there's that short story by Kevin J. Anderson that'd be written later in Tales of the Bounty Hunters. It's a similar thing. There's a bunch of IG-88 droids, though they might have different, I guess. No, I think he just transferred his mind to them. But so it's a very similar idea.
Yep. Anyway, R2 uploads the footage of the recording that he took when the I guess it was the wheel security were taking the profits out of the cruiser and shooting the stormtroopers and taking the money away. And then he broadcasts that. Everybody on the wheel can see it. And then the results of that are felt instantly throughout the wheel. Every communicator screen in every casino flashes the sight and sound of treachery. What in the galaxy? Wheel guards raiding the Imperial commander's ship. But listen to what they're saying. Look at those strong boxes. It's the wheel prophets. Stormtroopers reported that the rebels pirated. The Empire's been making those attacks and claiming it was the Alliance. And result, resentment, which bubbles into rage, which explodes into riot. And then they go after the stormtroopers, which is a little bit weird because they just saw footage of the wheel security people stealing the profits from the Empire. So I don't know why they'd go after the Empire first. It would seem to make more sense to go after the wheel people. I don't know.
Yeah. That does make a lot of sense. I don't know how that you could even like justify that really. I don't know what excuse you can make, but they should be going after all the wheel.
They do make a few assumptions here.
Yeah, with no real proof. I get that they see the them stealing the gold or whatever, the credits. That's my dogs. But you can to assume that they tricked everyone into thinking that the rebels destroyed everything. I don't know how they reached that conclusion. So
Anyway, they riot. They wreck the place. They take out the stormtroopers. Conveniently for Han and Chewie, who are on a gurney with Chewbacca's winnings there from the big game, the gladiator match, and they're just sailing their way out of there on that repulsor sled. And they run into some more stormtroopers. They send the sled into the stormtroopers like bowling pins there. Unfortunately, the winnings are still aboard. He says, Chewie, you left the winnings aboard. And Han's a little displeased about that because he could use that money to pay off Jabba, after all. But unfortunately, doesn't get to recover that. We go to the next panel with Luke and Leia. Gray shade there. There's more stormtroopers they take out. And then we cut back to, is that 3PO or is that the master computer? I can't tell. I think it's, okay. Cut back to R2 there. And Luke and Leia are able to take off. Gray shade stays there. I guess he gets hit or his arm gets injured in the fight with the stormtroopers. And Strom comes out with a blaster. And looks like Gray Shade has a proton grenade I've been holding as a last resort. Senator, those aren't meant for close range. And basically takes out Strom, takes out the rest of the stormtroopers, and Master Com and Gray Shade himself. So just blows everybody up at the end there. So it seemed like at the very end he at least helped Luke and Leia escape. So sort of changed from a bad guy to a good guy at the end of the story. What do you guys think about Gray Shade's arc?
I think he indicates some awareness of the fact that he's not a good person, and there is not quite a how do I put this? He seems like someone who is actively ignoring his conscience, but he does have one, and for once here he decides to listen to it.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much his only out, right? Because it wouldn't, I guess it would be the smartest move for him to just go with Leia and Luke, but they probably wouldn't trust him. So his last move there, because he's kind of cornered by the Imperials, is just to take everybody out. And conveniently, he has a proton grenade just with him there. Anyway, Luke and Leia escape in the ship there, and they're very close to Vader's Star Destroyer and going to get caught in the tractor beam. But luckily, Han and Chewie come out in the Falcon, and it looks like they shoot at the bridge there because Vader is inside the Star Destroyer on the bridge with the commander there, and they all get blown sort of off their bridge there. And it disrupts the tractor beam and allows Luke and Leia to sort of get past the Star Destroyer. Score 1 for Justice, Chewie, and for shaking the pants off anyone that the cruiser bridge, anyone on that cruiser bridge trying to operate a tractor beam. Move it, kids, while the Empire is still getting over the shock. Han, you are alive and away from the wheel. It's a miracle. Somehow Han has returned.
Yeah. Well,
and hold on. Earlier here, we where is it? So R2 has escaped in an escape pod, and they've picked him up.
Oh, right, because he had to broadcast the information that he took. So
I like this panel here with Master Com and Gray Shade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're leaking oil, and new blood, sir. I doubt either of us can afford it. Hopefully we're not beyond repair. Hopefully. But if one must die, it's good to have the company of a friend.
Oh. They die happily ever after.
Right before it blows up.
So I guess could they have survived that technically? I mean, we don't see them die technically.
I think they
Suppose.
probably did survive.
Okay. I got the
Because-
sense that they died in that explosion, but it's not a for sure thing.
Greyshade is very talkative for a dying man.
Hmm.
It's true.
And as for Mastercom, he might have other bodies he can use.
Oh, he'll be fine. It's not
Yeah,
him.
he is a never-ending supply.
So long as the computer isn't destroyed. But I was more concerned about if he would. But I guess there's no clear answer because I don't know if we ever see them again. So
No.
I like what Han says in the very bottom bubble on the top left there. That's right. I'm not going to let you forget what you did with our winnings. I mean, those are Chewbacca's winnings, right? Because Chewbacca technically won the fight. They thought Han died. So I don't know where
Yeah,
he
but
gets
he
this
owes-
R from.
But he owes him a life debt, so technically it is his
Yeah.
money.
But if he wins money at the casino, that doesn't mean it goes to Chewbacca. I mean, if Chewbacca wins money at the casino, that doesn't mean it goes to Han. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
He's a little
But I'm sure he would
presumptuous.
give Yeah, that's fair.
And it's not, you're married to Mala, and you owe me a life debt. Therefore, I am married to Mala instead.
Yeah. I get your woman. your Wookiee. Wookiee woman.
That's a different holiday special.
I don't think Han would be interested in that. Maybe he would.
I hope not. So
Lumpy's really Han's son.
that'd be a twist.
The real
that would
reason he went
rival-
with Chewbacca to
Yeah.
Kashyyyk.
That would surpass Luke. I am your father. That would be crazy.
Then we see the Star Destroyer goes after the Falcon because Vader recognizes it's the same ship that blasted my TIE fighter and ended my defense of the Death Star. Forget everything else. We're going to destroy that ship at any cost. Luke, the cruisers abandoned us completely, but it stayed with the Falcon through its pass. Han and Chewbacca will be vaporized before they can reach light speed. For a moment, Luke doesn't speak. The Force fills his thoughts. Then he cries out in rage and frustration. Rage at regaining a friend thought dead, only to see him about to be slain again. Frustration at having a vast power and not knowing how to save Han with it. But channels have been opened here, opened by a Dark Lord probing with the Force. We have them. All guns will fire on my command. Opened, but forgotten in the thought of vengeance for his one great defeat, until all of Luke's raging feelings, like lightning carried along a wire from one place as it has struck another, blast into Darth Vader's unprotected mind. And Vader screams out. The pain is brief but intense, yet in the moment of its passing and his recovery, the Lord of the Sith finds two sets of prey have made the jump to hyperspace, and they escape. So Luke uses the Force to basically mess with Vader there. What do you guys think of this scene?
This has got to be Luke tapping into the dark side a bit here.
I'd imagine so.
Maybe rage and frustration for sure.
Yes.
Yep. But he's a lot weaker right now in the Force, so
Mhm.
Doesn't seem to
He
affect you
did
too much.
he did what he had to do to save Han, really. So
Yeah.
understandable.
Ben
Yeah.
Kenobi once said, "The Force would be with me always." It proved it was today, but I've got to work at mastering it. Because where Darth Vader's concerned, it may not be enough tomorrow.
Yeah. Dun dun dun. And then next issue, An Untold Tale of Obi-Wan Kenobi. It looks nothing like the Old Republic and nothing like Obi-Wan Kenobi's Ewan McGregor, but it will be interesting to see next time we come back to it, which won't be for a little bit, but
Yes.
it will be interesting to read this.
Right.
in
We're
light
going
of
to
everything.
Gambler's
first-
World. Is the next episode, right?
The Constancia Affair and Gambler's World.
It's our next two. That will be in April.
Oh, hang on. So, what does this one say? Let me check. 35 cents.
Did they raise the price?
40 cents. Yes.
Oh,
Yes, they did.
inflation, man. Still a thing in the late 70s.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna have to make it a bit, cut it a bit short. So, overall, I really enjoyed these. They were a lot of fun. Everything with Darth Vader was really awesome, and I'm excited to read more of these stories with you guys. And I'm excited for what's next week or in April as well with you guys. So it's gonna be a lot of fun stuff and a lot of stuff that outside of Matt's channel, I don't think gets too much love. So. I look forward to talking about that stuff with you guys.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about this as a whole?
I thought it moved the story along. It's very similar to the other stories that we get later on. Things like Vader's Quest and even some of like the Brian Wood series. It felt like some of these comic issues could have been written at any time in the EU, even up to the very end, like 2013, 2014. So they really had a good idea of how the galaxy worked and space yachts and Luke tapping into the Force and all that sort of thing. Not to mention the obvious, like Vader's totally obsessed about going after the rebels that destroyed the Death Star. So it seems like this set of issues really gets the Marvel series going. We get a little bit away from sort of the wacky sort of comic issues. I mean, we do have kind of a weird one next with Obi-Wan and a flashback to the Old Republic, but at least the main series kind of gets on solid footing from here on out. So I'd probably rate this. I don't think they're the best, but I'd give this like a 6 out of 10, I think.
How about you, Robert?
Yes, I think I agree. This seems like the point where they are, where the series is finding its footing. There are threads here that will be continued in later on in Archie Goodwin's run with the House of Tag, and we also see there's that Valence connection in the Vader interlude, and we see yet another attempt at paying back Jabba.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point. They set up the wheel as like a reoccurring theme that we'll see later on. They also set up the House of Tag, which we see in the next few issues, actually, and certain things like that they come back to and sort of build the universe. So they did a good job with that.
And their first interaction with Vader since A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
It's big. And now they know that he's alive. Obviously, we knew, but... And so would everyone who's seen A New Hope. But now the rebels know.
Yep. Hopefully next episode will be a full crew. Exactly. May get some new co-hosts on here as well. We'll see. We're going to try to do 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. It'll be a little bit from now.
Who else do you want to have
mean-
there? It's going to be a surprise. You're going to have to watch and find out.
I mean, I don't have anybody in particular. I mean, anybody's sort of welcome, so long as they're particularly interested in what we're discussing, I suppose. But I have my usual crew, which is usually Scott and Robert. Al's usually around. I just did this a bit later than usual, so Al couldn't make it. But those are sort of my holy trinity of usually around for these episodes. So, but beyond that, it's well, I'm just
to
listen.
the Holy Trinity now.
Yeah. Holy trinity of my podcast of the usual people. That's what I meant. I'm just making a little reference. But beyond that, it's just guests that want to show up. I mean, I have a Discord. I don't really have that public because it's specifically for the podcast. But if people want to come for a particular episode, you just let me know. You can contact me and I'll send you a link. So no problem with me. But yeah, with that, I think we'll end it here. And thank you all so much for watching. And
Thanks
we'll see
everybody
you
for
in April.
listening. See you.
And have a good rest of your month. Alrighty. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, no.
We're still live. This is
And
bonus
that
content. Bonus content. We could talk about Alex now. We're still live.
Not bad.
Oh man. See, we're gonna talk
I like
about you. We're gonna get you canceled.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. All right, for real this time. Goodbye, everyone.
All right. See you guys.